Change is never easy. People resist it because they fear the unknown. Many defend caste-based practices by calling them tradition and culture. But tradition cannot be an excuse for injustice. Slavery was once a tradition, but that did not make it right. Those who benefit from unfair systems, they will always try to stop progress. But history shows that society moves forward when brave leaders like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar challenge injustice, even when it is difficult. When we were kids, we accepted the world around us as it was. We grew up hearing about traditions, hearing about cultures, hearing about customs and social rules that seemed fixed and that seemed unquestionable. But as we got older, we started seeing the cracks in these systems. We started questioning why things had to be the way they were. One of the biggest and most difficult questions we face is about the caste system. Why is changing the caste system look so scary? Why does it feel like challenging the foundation? It is like shaking the very foundations of everything we have known since ages. Because change itself is terrifying. When something has existed for centuries, it becomes part of our identity. The caste system is like a deep-rooted tree, so cutting down the tree, it seems impossible. People fear what will happen if the tree is cut. They fear instability, they fear uncertainty, they fear the loss. What if the tree is blocking the sunlight, preventing new life from thriving? What if its roots are suffocating the soil, choking out fresh growth? In such case, change is not just necessary, but it is a change. The tree of caste system, it has oppressed millions for centuries. Its deep roots, they are strangling progress, and its towering shadow is blocking the light of opportunity. To build a just and equitable society, we must cut it down, freeing the soil, allowing new growth, and letting the sunlight of equality to shine on all marginalized. Then history shows us that people resist change not because they don't see the problem, they have seen the problem, but because they fear what they might lose. The oppressor would say, isn't this our karma? Maybe I deserve this life. If I reject caste, where will I belong? Can things really change? Or is this just how the world works? Who will marry my children if we step outside this caste system? So these are the doubts raised by the marginalized people. Then those who benefit from the caste system, they say, this is our tradition, this is our culture. We have lived with this tradition for centuries. Why questioning it now? Then they would ask, no one complained before. Why suddenly make it an issue? Caste is just a way of organizing society. It is varnashram dharma, not discrimination, they would say. And they would say even further, this is an attack on our culture and this is an attack on our heritage. Caste discrimination doesn't exist anymore. Look at successful people from lower caste. So we will be flooded with such type of jnana when we speak about removing this caste system. Those who have suffered already, they fear that speaking out against this caste system, it will make their lives harder. It's a human nature. Research even proves that we find uncertainty more stressful than knowing something bad will happen. We crave predictability even when that predictability is unjust. The caste system is not just about tradition. This system is about power. This system is about control. This system is about inequality. When a system benefits a few and oppresses many, it creates an illusion that it is unchangeable. But the truth is, change is always possible. When we question caste, we are not just questioning a social order, we are questioning an entire way of thinking. And that is where the real fear comes from. People feel like they are losing part of their identity. But what if you are not losing anything? But what if you are gaining something greater? Let's think. When we challenge the caste system, we are expanding what we can become. We are not limiting ourselves to what society told us we must be. We are opening doors that once they were locked. We are proving that our value does not come from birth, but from our actions, from our ideas, and from our humanity. There will always be resistance. People will say, this is the way things have always been. But think, does that make it right? If something is wrong, does it make it acceptable? Slavery existed for thousands of years, but that didn't mean it had to continue. Monarchies ruled over people for centuries, but that didn't mean democracy was impossible. Systems change when people dare to imagine something better. And we are capable of imagining something better. We can imagine something better. We are capable of seeing a world where people are treated based on their abilities, based on their kindness, and based on their contributions to the society. Not on labels, not on identities, or not on caste surnames they were born with, but with humanity. It starts with a simple but powerful question. Who are we beyond these labels? How might challenging the system change what we value? How might it change how we define ourselves? We need to understand that caste is not just about social status. It affects everything. It limits who we can befriend, who we can marry, what jobs we can get, and how we see ourselves. How we see ourselves. It also be affected by this caste system. When we fight to remove these barriers, we are not just changing society, we are freeing ourselves. The fear of change, it will always be there, but we should be more afraid of what happens if we do nothing. If we keep accepting injustice because it is easier than challenging it, we are letting fear control our future. But if we push forward, if we challenge what has been imposed upon us, we open up a future where every person is valued for who they are, not for the category they were placed in. So, Ambedkarism is a call to action. It teaches us to recognize unfairness, learn more about the world, and work to end caste discrimination. To truly follow Ambedkar's path, we must believe in some important values. We must question everything and not accept injustice as faith. We must treat every person as equal, knowing that no one is born superior, no one is born inferior. We must fight for a fair society where everyone has the same opportunities, no matter their background. Most importantly, we must understand that education is the strongest tool for the change. When we learn, and when we help others to learn, we break the chains of oppression. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was a deep thinker. So, he studied the world's greatest philosophy. He studied the greatest philosophers to develop the ideas that could help build a just society. He carefully analyzed both Western and Eastern thought systems. He examined religious teachings. He examined political ideologies. He examined social structures. But he did not accept ideas blindly. He questioned them. He tested their logic. And he applied only those principles that were practical and fair. His approach was rooted in reason, not on tradition, and in justice, not in blind faith. A name is just a label, but what truly defines us is what we stand for and what we do. If we believe in justice, equality and dignity, we must not only speak about them, we must practice them. We must practice them every day. Ambedkar's ideas are not meant to be admired from a distance. They are meant to guide our actions and decisions in real life. The world around us is changing faster than ever. Yet, the same world problems, they remain, like social inequality, economic hardships, violence, and injustice. These are not random occurrences. They have deep-rooted causes. It is our duty to recognize them, understand why they exist, and take action to create a fairer and more compassionate society. Change does not happen on its own. It happens when people decide to make a difference. Ambedkar's lifelong pursuit of knowledge, it teaches us a powerful lesson. To change the world, we must first educate ourselves. He did not limit his learning to one school of thought. He studied Plato, Socrates, Karl Marx, Bertrand Russell, and many other philosophers. He questioned their ideas. He debated their relevance, and he adapted them to India's reality. This shows us that learning is not just about collecting information. It is about thinking critically and using knowledge to solve real problems. If we truly want to follow Ambedkar's path, we must learn, we must question, and we must act. And also we must challenge injustice wherever we see it. Empower ourselves and others through education. And never accept inequality as fate. Let us begin. Let us begin with a fundamental question. Why does inequality persist even in a rapidly modernized world? Many believe that success is purely a result of talent and hard work. But if that were true, why do individuals from marginalized backgrounds, they often struggle far more than those born into privilege, even when they achieve the same level of excellence? Why? The truth is that inequality is not just about money. It is about success, it is about historical privilege, and it is about social acceptance. Consider the journey of Nawazuddin Siddiqui, a film actor, one of India's most talented actors. He was born into a small farming family in Uttar Pradesh. He had no industry connections, no financial backing, and no easy access to opportunities. Despite graduating from the National School of Drama, he struggled for years. He faced rejection after rejection. Casting agents and filmmakers, they overlooked him because he did not fit the conventional Bollywood hero image. Even after gaining recognition, he continued to face discrimination. He was once denied an apartment in a high-profile Mumbai society because of his background. Now compare this to someone like Ranbir Kapoor. Born into the illustrious Kapoor's family, his entry into the film industry was smooth. He had access to best training, immediate recognition, and multiple film offers even before proving his talent and success. This is not to undermine his skill, but it shows how deeply ingrained privilege is. Both Nawazuddin Siddiqui and Ranbir Kapoor, they are successful actors, but their journeys were vastly different. One had to fight against systematic barriers, while the other had the path paved for him. This proves that inequality is not just about individual merit. It is about the invisible advantage that comes with privilege. Now, let us look at another instinct that reflects the crisis of values in today's society. The tragic case of businessman Gopi Bahubai, he was from Gujarat. His instinct shocked the nation. He is a self-made entrepreneur. He built his fortune through decades of hard work, but in horrifying turn of events, he was murdered. Not by outsiders, but by his own son and daughter-in-law. Driven by greed, they orchestrated his killing, believing that his wealth rightfully belonged to them. This incident is not just about crime. It is a reflection of a moral and social breakup. It raises serious questions. Has wealth become more valuable than human relationships? Have materialistic desires overtaken ethics and empathy? Baba Ambedkar fought against both social and economic inequality, emphasizing that true progress comes when society moves forward as a whole, not just a privileged few people. Inequality is not a natural phenomenon. It is created and sustained by unjust system, rigid social structures, and deep-seated bias. If we want real change, we must not only recognize these injustices, but actively challenge these injustices. It is time to move beyond admiring stories of struggle. We must take action. We must question the system that favors a section of you, fight against discrimination, and create a world where dignity and opportunity are determined by fairness, not by birth, not by caste privilege. Only then we can claim to have truly understood and addressed inequality in its all. Let's take another perspective that many of us fail to recognize. For a city to grow, it needs workers, laborers who migrate from villages to build the infrastructure, clean streets, and work in industries. At the same time, these workers rely on the city for jobs, they rely on the city for food, they rely on the city for the shelter. This means the rich depend on the poor and the poor depend on the rich. Let us take the example from a movie, Kala by Rajinikanth. It explores this dynamic through the struggle between the wealthy elite and the marginalized slum dwellers. The Kala movie here referred is 2018 Tamil film directed by Paranjit. The film explores themes of caste oppression. It explores the themes of caste oppression, land rights, and the struggle between the wealthy elite and the poor marginalized people. Particularly, it focuses on the lives of Dalits in Mumbai's Dharavi slum. It portrays how the rich and powerful attempt to seize land from the poor while justifying it as a development, ignoring the deep-rooted inequalities in the system. Here, our hero, Rajinikanth, Kala, he represents resistance. He represents resistance against this exploitation. He challenges the notion that the rich have absolute control over the lives of the poor. In this movie, the rich live in towering buildings. They enjoy privileges built on the backs of the working class, while the poor, they are forced into the cramped, flood-prone settlements. They constantly at risk of displacement. When crisis hits, it is always the poor who bear the brunt, losing their homes, losing their livelihoods, and losing even their lives, while the rich remain untouched. This raises an unsettling question. Who truly holds up society and who is merely reaping its benefits? So here we should understand human nature. Understanding human nature has been a subject of debate for centuries. Thinkers like Machiavelli, he argued that humans are inherently selfish, humans are inherently deceitful, humans are inherently power hungry. He believed that people wear one face in public and they wear another in private, shaping politics and society through manipulation and personal gain. If this is true, can there ever be true equality? Can justice be achieved if the foundation of human nature itself is correct? But history offers another perspective. Not all humans act out of selfishness. Some have rejected power, privilege, and comfort for the greater good of common people. If we take the example of Buddha, he born into royalty, he abandoned his kingdom to seek enlightenment, not for himself, but to guide others out of suffering. Baba Sahib, despite earning degrees from prestigious institutions and having the means to live a life of privilege, but Baba Sahib chose instead to fight against caste oppression. He dedicated his life to securing rights and dignity for marginalized communities. Periyar E.V. Ramaswamy, who belonged to a wealthy and politically influential family, he renounced his privileges. He renounced his privileges to lead the self-respect movement. Self-respect movement, he challenged caste-based dominance and caste-based discrimination. In modern times, if you see the example of Rohit Vemla, despite his struggles, he had the intellect and potential to pursue a life of personal success, but instead he used his voice to challenge caste injustice, ultimately paying the price for his resistance. These individuals prove that privilege does not have to mean complicity. They could have lived in comfort. If they wanted, they could have lived in comfort. But they choose the difficult path of justice, proving that real progress comes from those willing to sacrifice personal gains for the collective good. This means that human nature is not just one thing, selfish or sacrifice. It is both. It is not just selfish, it is not just sacrifice, but it is a mix of both selfishness and kindness. People are capable of being greedy and cruel, but they can also be generous and selfless. If caste discrimination were a natural part of being human, it would never change. But history proved that change is possible, not because the powerful allow it, but because brave people refuse to accept injustice. The lives of those who have fought against caste discrimination, it showed that justice is not just an impossible dream. It can become real. It can become real when people choose to stand up for fairness instead of holding on to their own privilege, and when they believe in equality instead of accepting social hierarchy. If we see the leaders in power to support the social justice, they change the colors even more rapidly. Politicians, those who stood for social justice in the beginning, they change the colors. Many leaders enter politics claiming to fight for social justice, inequality, uplift the oppressed. However, when power becomes attainable, their ideas often shift. A leader once who spoke against inequality, then later they embrace the very system they want to change. This pattern is seen repeatedly. Power has the potential to corrupt and reshape convictions. For example, if you see the great filmmaker in Pawan Kalyan, he is a prominent actor turned politician in Andhra Pradesh. He has undergone a notable ideological transformation over the years. Initially, he started with revolutionary figures like Che Guevara, symbolizing a commitment to social justice and radical change. This admiration influenced his early political rhetoric, where he championed the rights of the marginalized and spoke against systematic inequalities. In 2014, he founded the Janasena Party, positioning it as a force for the common people and aligning with leftist ideologies. When he was established the party, over the time, he began to emphasize concepts like Sanatana Dharma, aligning more closely with nationalist sentiments by becoming a deputy CM of AP. The leader, once who admired revolutionary figures like Che Guevara and spoke about social justice and change, he spoke about social justice and he spoke about the change. Later, he aligned himself for power politics. This transformation has sparked discussions about the fluid nature of political ideologies and the factors influencing such shifts. While some view this as a strategic move to broaden his political appeal, but people see it as a departure from his foundational principles. Regardless, Pawan Kalyan's journey illustrates the dynamic interplay between personal beliefs and political strategy in shaping a leader's public persona. His transformation, it reflects how political ambitions they often lead individuals to adjust their beliefs to fit the expectations of the powerful. Similarly, many politicians who began their careers by supporting marginalized communities, later they soften their stance or even oppose the very reforms they once advocated. History is filled with leaders who began their political journey with a strong ideological foundation, but later they shifted their stance to align with power structures. Mayawati, she was the one who once fiercely opposed upper caste domination and championed Dalit rights, later softened her stance, forming alliance with some political groups she once criticized. Another example is Arvind Kejriwal. He emerged as anti-corruption crusader with a strong stand against traditional politics. Traditional political parties, but later he adopted a more pragmatic approach aligning with majoritarian sentiments to expand his electoral reach. Even Mulayam Singh Yadav, he initially positioned himself as a strong socialist leader protecting minorities, but later shifted his stance to appeal to the majority vote base. These transformations, they show how power can often override principles. They lead their leaders to compromise their foundational beliefs for political survival. Yet, history also gives us leaders who remain true to their caste. For example, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, he never compromised. He never compromised on his fight against caste oppression. Even when he had opportunities to align with the dominant groups for personal gain, but never. Then we can see Nelson Mandela, after decades of struggles, he could have sought power for himself, but instead, he prioritized justice and reconciliation. These leaders, they show that power does not always have to correct. It can be used responsibly to bring real change. For true change to happen, leadership must emerge from within oppressed communities. Then history has shown that relying on privileged leaders to fight for the marginalized, it often leads to betrayal. It often leads to dilution of demands. It often leads to compromises for political gain. When power remains concentrated in the hands of dominant groups, the voices of the oppressed, they are either silenced or manipulated for electoral benefits. This is why it is crucial to nurture and support leaders who come from these communities. Those who have lived through the struggles, they understand the systematic injustice and they remain committed to real change. Political power is not just about representation, it is about reclaiming agency, shaping policies, and dismantling the structures that uphold discrimination. Without strong, independent leadership from within oppressed communities, they will continue to be used as a mere vote bank, while their real issues they remain unsolved. This is why. This is why people must learn to recognize genuine leadership. Genuine leadership not being misled by shifting ideologies or empty promises. True leadership, it is not about personal gain. It is about standing by one's principles and serving the people even when it is difficult. So, from here, where do we go from here? How can we fight inequality, injustice, and the corruption that power brings? Change is not easy, but it starts. It starts with action in three important ways. First, education. Education is the most powerful tool against oppression. As Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar believed, knowledge gives people the power to challenge injustice. We must question outdated beliefs, learn our rights, and ensure that future generations understand the value of equality. An informed society is harder to control and more capable of demanding injustice. Second, real equality. Real equality cannot happen without changing the system. There must be fair opportunities for everyone in education, jobs, and property ownership. Leadership in politics and important decision making, these positions should reflect all communities, not just the privileged few. When policies are made for the benefit of all, society moves towards true justice. Finally, real change happens when people are willing to sacrifice personal comfort for the greater good. It is not enough to hope for a better society. We must act. Every citizen must act, whether it is by raising awareness, supporting marginalized groups, or rejecting unfair systems. Everyone has a role to play. Justice is not something we wait for. It is something we create together. Ambedkarism, it is not just about one man. It is a way of thinking, a movement, and an unwavering commitment to justice. It is about challenging power. It is about challenging power, rejecting inequality, and building a society where every individual has the right to live with dignity and opportunity. It is a call to action, not just for Dalits, not just for marginalized communities, but for anyone who believes in fairness and human rights. We cannot afford to be silent. We cannot afford to be silent spectators while injustice thrives in our society. Change does not come from wishful thinking. It comes from action. If we truly believe in justice, we must stand up, not tomorrow, not when it is convenient, but today. Today we have to stand up. Every moment of hesitation, it strengthens the force of oppression. And every act of courage, it brings us one step closer to an equal society. Ambedkarism, it is not just an ideology, but it is a revolution. A force that dismantles oppression and lights the path towards justice. It is a tool of liberation for those denied basic rights, a shield against exploitation, and a roadmap for an inclusive future. We see growing resistance to these ideas. On one side, there are those who seek to revive ancient Vedic traditions, reinforcing caste hierarchies and stripping away the rights of the oppressed. On the other side, extreme leftist ideologies, they reject the very foundation of our democracy, claiming the constitution itself is inadequate. Both forces, they threaten the principles that empower the marginalized. But we must not waver. The constitution is not just a legal document, it is our greatest weapon against oppression. It is the shield that protects the vulnerable and the sword that fights discrimination. Defending it, it is not an option. It is our responsibility. If we let it be diluted, we risk undoing decades of struggle. The path forward is clear. We must not just uphold Ambedkar's vision, but carry it forward with renewed strength. When Baba Sahib Ambedkar drafted the Constitution, he gave us more than just a set of laws. He gave us a tool. He gave us a tool to break the chains of oppression. Before 1950, many people in India, they were treated as less than human. Education was not for everyone. Dignity was denied to millions, and justice was reserved only for the privileged. The Constitution changed this by declaring that every person, regardless of their caste, regardless of gender, regardless of their wealth, every person has equal rights. It is the foundation of our democracy, ensuring that no one is above the law and no one is beneath it. But why do some people fear the Constitution? Because it challenges the power they have held for centuries. It threatens the ideas that only a few deserve respect, while others must accept discrimination as their fate. When a Dalit priest confidently says, I will follow the Constitution, it is not just a statement. It is a rebellion against oppression. It is a declaration that no one has the right to decide who is worthy and who is not. Would these priests have had the same freedom if the Constitution did not exist? Would he have been protected if he belonged to an oppressed community in a time when caste determined a person's entire life? This is why the Constitution is not just a legal document. It is our shield. It is our voice. And it is our greatest weapon. It gives power to the powerless and fear to those who wish to keep them down. But a weapon is only useful if we know how to wield it. It is not enough to just have rights on paper. We must use them and defend them and ensure they are not taken away. The fight for justice does not end with the Constitution. Those who oppose the Constitution may seem different, but they share a common goal. To weaken the very system that gives power to the oppressed. They belong to two main groups. Those who want to return to the past and those who want to tear everything down without a plan for the future. On one side are right-wing traditionalists who dream of a society ruled by religious scriptures rather than democratic principles. They talk about Vedic Raj, a vision where governance is based on ancient texts, not on equality and justice. For them, the Constitution is an obstacle because it challenges their caste-based order and prevents them from imposing their beliefs on everyone. They use religious symbols, they use mass gatherings, they use propaganda to spread fear that democracy is somehow a threat to their faith. But the truth is, democracy does not attack religion. It only ensures that no one can use religion to oppress others. On the other side, there are extreme leftists who reject the Constitution entirely, claiming it does not go for enough to bring one. They argue that only a complete overthrow of the system it will create true justice. But what do they offer in its place? A lawless society. Revolutions without structure, they lead only to chaos and destruction. History has shown that when institutions collapse without a strong alternative, it is always the most vulnerable who suffer first. Though these two forces appear to be in opposition, they both work toward the same outcome, weakening the democratic system that protects the marginalized. If they succeed, the first to lose their rights will be Dalit, then women and other oppressed groups. Without constitutional safeguards, society will return to a brutal hierarchy where only the privileged hold power. This is why defending the constitution is not just about protecting a document. It is about protecting the future of justice, future of dignity, future of equality for all. Ambedkarism is not just about gaining political power. It is about awakening minds. True revolution, it begins with knowledge. For centuries, a small section of society, it controlled education, information, and access to learning. Using this as a tool to maintain dominance. Those in power, they knew that an educated mind would challenge oppression. So, they denied knowledge to the marginalized. But the Constitution changed that. It gave every individual the right to learn, to question, to think critically. The greatest enemy of inequality is an informed and aware society. History proves this time and again. Periyar's movement, it was never just about temple entry. It was about claiming dignity, the right to walk freely, the right to exist without fear. The struggle is far from over. Today, the fight must go beyond symbolism. We must ensure that no child is denied education because of caste. No woman is held back because of gender. And no worker is exploited due to their economic status. Social justice is not just about law. It is about changing mindsets. And that begins with education. Some say religion is personal matter and should be left alone. But history tells us otherwise. When religion gains control over governance, it is never the weak who benefit. It is always the powerful. Religious leaders who challenge the authority of the Constitution, they do not seek spiritual guidance. They seek dominance. They do not fight for faith. They fight for control. They fight for control over land. They fight for wealth. They fight for institutions. Look at the debates unfolding today, whether temples should be under government regulation or handed over entirely to religious institutions. Those pushing for religious control, they are not demanding freedom of worship. They are demanding political and financial power. But where is the counter argument from our side? Why are Dalit intellectuals and progressive voices not leading these discussions? When we remain silent, we allow others to define the narrative, shape policies, and control the future. The fight for justice does not end with legal rights. It must be carried into every space where power is being negotiated. Knowledge is our weapon, and we must wield it without fear. Ambedkar warned us long ago, every revolution, it will face a counter-revolution. This is the cycle of history. When the Buddha's teachings, they spread the message of equality, they were erased by a revival of Brahmanical dominance. When the fight against untouchability, it gained momentum, it was met with brutal resistance. And today, Ambedkarism itself is under attack. Those in power use Baba Sahib's name for their convenience, but they work against his ideas. They bow before his statues, yet they reject his vision. This is not respect, it is deception. This hypocrisy must be exposed, and we must not be silent in the face of it. So today the question is, what must we do? The first and most urgent task is to protect the Constitution. protect the Constitution. Every right we have today, maybe dignity, ability to fight oppression, our access to education, all these exist because of the Constitution. If we allow it to be weakened, if our Constitution is weakened, we risk losing everything Ambedkar taught for us. We must educate and organize. Ambedkarism thrives on knowledge. The powerful control people not just with weapons, but with disinformation, twisting history to serve their agenda. Read, learn, question, and spread awareness. Do not allow falsehoods to become the dominant narrative. We must engage in politics. We must engage in politics. Power is never given, but power is taken. If we stay away from political participation, others will make decisions for us. Is contest elections, demand representation, and ensure that the oppressed have a seat at the table. Baba Sahib himself knew that without political power, social change, it would be impossible. We must challenge religious manipulation. Religion, when mixed with politics, religion has always been used as a tool of oppression. Do not allow religious leaders to dictate governance. Demand accountability from those who use faith as a means to control and divide people. We must empower women and Dalits. A society is not progressive if its most vulnerable continue to suffer. Change must begin within our communities by uplifting each other, by ensuring that every child has access to education, by standing together against discrimination in every form. This is our moment. We are at a crossroads between progress and regression, between justice and oppression. Ambedkarism, it is not just a philosophy, it is a mission. Ambedkarism is a mission. It is a mission, it is a responsibility, a lifelong commitment. The Constitution is not just a book, it is our weapon, our shield, our hope. If we believe in justice, we must protect. We must live by it, and we must fight for it. Not tomorrow, not some other day, but today. It is the right time. So, what is the true path forward? It is not just about electing leaders who speak the right words. It is about creating leaders from within our own communities, leaders who do not compromise, who do not sell their ideas for power, and who do not forget why they started this journey. Political power is not the end goal. Political power is not the end goal. It is only a means. The real battle is for self-respect, dignity, and the right to exist as equals in this society. So, Baba Sahib gave us the tools. He gave us the tools, education, reservation, and constitution. But tools are useless if we do not use them. We must educate ourselves, not just in schools, but in the reality of our oppression. We must organize. We must organize, not just for protest, but for a sustained movement that outlives any single election cycle. We must be vigilant, because those who oppose us are reckless. They will try to weaken our rights. They try to dilute our representation. They try to divide us with false promises. The Constitution is our shield, but only if we protect. Baba Sahib's vision is our guide, but only if we follow it. The fight is not over, it has only begun. Today, we stand at a crossroads. Do we allow history to repeat itself, where counter-revolutions erase the struggles of those who came before us, or do we stand firm? Or do we stand firm, refusing to let another generation suffer under the same oppression? The choice is ours. Not tomorrow, not someday. Thank you. Thank you.